everyone. Today I am cooking with my grandma, aka Gigi, aka Pat Golson. Tell everybody what we're making today.
Well, you pronounce it. We're making this recipe.
Let's start off by saying that we're from Virginia, so we're not quite exactly sure how to say this correctly. I say it Beef Burgundy.
It actually, the French is like beef, but in our language it would be Beef Burgundy.
And where did you find this recipe? How did you start making this? Or
Well, my husband Wilson was, and your granddaddy,
yeah,
was a foodie, and he would get the Richmond Times-Dispatch every Sunday and look through the food section instead of the sports section like most guys, you know. So he saw this recipe and then he said, "This really sounds good. Why don't you try it?" And so we did, and that was in 1975, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been making it ever since, and I think it's a favorite for most of the family.
Yeah, so this is definitely a requested recipe for birthdays and get-togethers with our family,
And some of them even call it strange things, like Corey.
my cousin Corey calls it beef boogaloo. Is that what?
Boogaloo.
He does his best.
Definitely not French.
No. The first thing we're going to do is talk about what is going into this. Some of the things that we're using today you can swap out for, to make it however you want. But you want to start telling people what we got?
Well, we get beef, and it doesn't have to be prime meat. I mean, it doesn't have to be really tender filet mignon. It can be round steak or
A good fatty
good
cut.
fatty cut of meat. And because you're going to cook it for a long time in a crock pot, it tenderizes as it cooks. So you can use a chuck roast or anything like that, and it's good. You just have to cut it up in cubes.
So we've got about 3 pounds of beef here it was a round roast that we cut into chunks earlier today. So that's what we've got here. Okay, next is a half a stick of butter. We've got about a 1/4 cup of tomato paste. We've got 10 ounces of beef broth. 1 cup or more, Gigi says, of good wine, red wine.
A wine that you would drink.
And then we have some flour here. I've got about a 1/2 cup here. Gigi will tell you more about that when we get to that step. We've got a package of onion soup mix, and the original recipe calls for garlic and onion, 1 onion and a garlic clove. But we like the onion mix because why?
Because the onions are really fine, chopped up really fine, and it also has beef broth that it is in the packet with it,
Mm-hmm.
So it gives it more flavor. You use less salt.
And in our family, people don't like chunks of onion, so
This is true.
if you like the fresh onion and garlic, that's your decision in your kitchen. So, and then salt and pepper as well. Okay, we didn't miss anything. First things first. What's the first step?
Well, the first step is we got to dredge this meat in flour, because we're going to put it on the stove top and cook it till it gets a little brown before we put it in the crock pot.
Okay, so
Miss Sarah's going to put it in this bag because you can dredge it a little bit better, and the flour gets to it. The flour that you use on this when you dredge it, it's going to be a little bit of thickening to your recipe. So even though the recipe calls for a 1/4 cup, I put enough to dredge all the meat.
eyeball it.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, hold on a minute. I probably have a bag that won't zip.
Your drink out of the way.
Don't move it too far. Like I said, you want to use a good wine that you can drink.
We call this zhuzhing it around.
Yeah, you want to make sure that.
That is doing pretty good. We got a little
bit of spot right there, Sarah.
Okay. You can do a little sprinkle.
You do the rest of it. I think it'll be good. Just dump it.
Okay. There we go.
Thank you.
So that was a half a cup that we ended up with for.
Okay, the next step to this is going to be put your butter that you have in the frying pan.
Over at the oven, we're starting with some butter that we're going to melt in our pan. Here's our kitchen helper. You can start by adding your cubes of beef into the pan to get some caramelization and a sear on the outside of your cubes. You can add more butter as needed. We added all of our beef at once, so our pan was pretty crowded, but we're just looking for a little brown on the outside. Once we started to see that, we started to transfer some pieces into the crock pot to make more room in the pan. Once you've browned all your cubes of beef, you can deglaze your pan with the broth and your tomato paste. Add in your wine and your soup mix, some salt, and get it to a good simmer. And just keep stirring until it's all mixed together. Here's a close-up of what it looks like at that stage, and then you're just going to add that over your beef into your crock pot. So once you've poured the sauce in over top of your cubes of beef that you've browned, you just want to make sure that you move everything around to get it underneath of the liquid, or as much into the liquid as you can. And we're going to cook this on high for 5 to 7 hours.
So if you're going to work, you could probably put it on low and it'll be ready for dinner when you get home.
Yes, we like that. So put your lid on, cook it for high for 5 to 7 hours or low for 9 to 12 hours. We're going to let ours go and we'll come back to do a little taste test. Thanks, Gigi. Many hours have passed. Lots of smells have been permeating through the room, and we're finally getting to taste it. So, let's do it. That's a big piece of beef.
That is a big piece.
I don't want to bite that on camera. Well, you know what? We're just going to go for it. Just go for it. We're going to split a pice. Okay, mine's way bigger than yours, but here we go.
Okay.
All right.
Nailed it.
Give me, don't leave me hanging. There we go. You talk about it because I'm still chewing. It's tender.
It's impolite to chew, to speak with your mouth full, but that really is good. You'll be glad you made it. It's pretty simple. You put it in a pot and you come home from work and there it is.
And we've got it over rice, and this is soaking up the sauce really well. If you want to do it over mashed potatoes, that gravy will be super good. Give it a try and let us know what you think. And as always, thanks for cooking with me, Gigi. Love you.
Love you.